Hi, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome back to a brand new video and welcome back to my channel. It is time for more ghost train stories to let you guys put on the travel channel and more episodes to put on the travel channel also. Um, So today's story, this evening story is going to be called Glowing Eyes on the Train Track. Glowing Eyes on the Track. Glowing Eyes on the Track. And it takes place in 1927, in the 19th century, in 1927, Glowing Eyes on the Track. And it also takes place in Pikeville, Kentucky. It takes place in Kentucky and it takes place in Kentucky, okay? So Glowing Eyes on the Track. One day in 1927, an 18-year-old boy was walking home from a movie show in Pikeville, Kentucky, a town located on the old Chesapeake and Ohio Railway in the eastern part of the state. It was about midnight. There had been a big storm, and the water was high. The boy walked into a cut near Cedar Creek. And saw them eyes, two eyes a few inches apart. He could see them glowing in the darkness, but they vanished whenever the lightning flashed. The boy got off the tracks and threw two big rocks at the eyes, and they seemed to go right through the thing. The boy couldn't figure out what the thing was. It wasn't a train. In fact, it didn't make any noise at all. The thing kept coming nearer and nearer on, going straight down the tracks. After it passed the frightened boy, he couldn't see the eyes anymore. So, what walked down the C&O tracks that midnight back in 1927? So apparently the boy had been coming home from a movie show and there had been a big storm that night, and he was walking down the train tracks. He was walking down the train tracks and saw some eyes and saw like two big eyes or something. And he couldn't figure out what it was. And like it said, it wasn't a train. It wasn't a train. It was eyes. It could have been a ghost. But it wasn't a ghost train or a train. It could have been a human ghost, or something like something human, whatever the eyes were. It could have been the apparition of a human ghost, whatever it was, like it said, what walked down the Central and Ohio tracks that midnight back in 1927. When you do the documentary, be sure it goes back in time to 1927 and the 18-year-old boy walking home from the movie show in Pikeville, Kentucky, where it takes place at in Pikeville, Kentucky, and be sure you call it Glowing Eyes on the Track, and be sure you let the person go back in time, and be sure you let it be two eyes of a human ghost, not a train. It wasn't a train. And be sure it's like a human ghost. Okay, of a person. Okay, all right. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that story. Now I'm going to read another story. This one is called Flagstop. And this takes place back in 1926, back in the 1920s, like in 1926 or later in 1926. And it takes place in Beauregard, Mississippi. It takes place in Beauregard, Mississippi. And it's called Flagstop. So, Flagstop, here we go. One day, old Dr. Rowan, a resident of Beauregard, Mississippi, was walking down the Illinois Central tracks behind his house. The old gentleman, who was in his 70s, was confused by the sudden appearance of a train. Instead of stepping off the train tracks to safety, he yelled, "Stop." Of course, the horrified engineer was already trying to stop the train, but it was too late. The old man was run down and killed. After the death, the old Rowan house was said to be haunted by Dr. Rowan's ghost. Later in 1926, the phantom began haunting the Illinois Central Main Line between Hazelhurst and Brookhaven, Mississippi, the tracks where Dr. Rowan died. The ghost would appear with the lantern and flag trains down by giving a danger signal with its lights. The ghost would always disappear after flagging a train. So many trains were flagged by the ghost that crews started calling the spot Flagstop. The Illinois Central finally called an unsuccessful investigation of the phenomenon. The ghost apparently stopped appearing when the dilapidated Rowan house was torn down in the 1940s. Train crews on the busy Chicago-New Orleans main line must have been relieved to be spared the contents of ghostly delays. So in the 1940s, the ghost stopped appearing, but many people go out there. Many people go out there and try to sense his spirit. Many people go out there and try to sense his spirit, but they're not able to see anything or find anything either. But in 1926, the phantom began haunting Illinois' main central line and between Hazelhurst and Brookhaven. and the tracks where Dr. Rowan died, the ghost would appear with the lantern and flag trains down by giving a danger signal with its lights. The ghost would always disappear after flagging a train. So many trains were flagged by the ghost that crews started calling the spot Flag Stop. So the ghost apparently stopped appearing when the die-plated Rowan house was torn down in the 1940s. So yeah. Like I said, many people go out there and try to. Many people go out there and try to sense his spirit, but they're not able to find anything. And it's still haunted. It's still a haunted place. It's still a haunted place. It still remains as a haunted place, But they're not able to see anything or find anything either. But still, when you guys film the documentary, you can let the story go back in the 1920s, and you can still let the story go back in the 1920s and 1926. When you do the documentary, you can let the story go back in time. And you can let the person go back in time as Dr. Rowan, and you can let his ghost and his spirit appear back in 1926. You can let his ghost and his spirit appear in the documentary. Still you can. But you'll have to let him appear in the part where it says 1926. So you'll have to let him appear in 1926 instead. And so when you do glowing eyes on the track, and when you do flag stop, be sure you let the spirits appear on the screen. And let the story, go back in time to the 1920s and and stuff like that, and okay? Now I'm gonna do my other example again from Haunted Hotels, from the previous show, Haunted Hotels. And you will see of how Ghost Train ought to look like on the Travel Channel when it gets filmed on there, okay? All right? So, here's Haunted Hotels.
From Gothic castles to quaint country cottages, hotels around the world welcome visitors through their doors. And while some guests check in, not everyone checks out. Just 50 kilometers north of London in Maidstone, physical evidence of a housemaid and her terrible secret still linger at this country inn. And in an Irish castle, the moments before a child's untimely death play out for all eternity.
And said, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" And what we both heard was la 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 la.
Come along to a world where ghosts roam the corridors and spirits fill the night. What is fact? What is fiction? Nothing is what it seems in a haunted hotel. Spending the night in an old hotel is like stepping back in time. But priceless antiques that add charm by day cast eerie shadows by night. Perhaps it is the clouds passing over the moon, or perhaps it is something more, something that defies explanation. Perhaps that private room is not so private after all. There is a lot more to the small island of Ireland than 4 leaf clovers and pints of Guinness.
We've stories about goblins and whatever, and leprechauns. You know, it's more real than a little guy in a green suit. It's poetic, and it's not kitsch.
Ireland's mystical heritage is full of fairies and banshees, myths and legends dating back to its Celtic roots.
There's some pubs that you can go into and there's an old guy telling a story.
And today, the local pub has helped revive the art of Irish storytelling, keeping its past alive.
My father was a great storyteller, and I can remember the story of fairies and, you know, someone going onto the fairy hill and not emerging for 100 years.
And in the Midland town of Tullamore, the tales continue. But this time, instead of fairies, the topic turns to ghosts.
Every town has a place that everyone thinks is haunted, and you have little kids going, oh, that's the haunted place, don't go in there, everyone tells you about it.
Yeah, I have heard of Charleville Castle.
Charleville Forest Castle sits just outside Tullamore's town centre, down a long winding path beneath the cover of an ancient oak forest. But Charleville is not your typical hotel.
Welcome to Charleville Castle.
A closer look at the beautiful 200-year-old Gothic castle reveals a building in disrepair. And the guests staying at Charleville have the unique opportunity to be part of its restoration.
What we are is a building in progress of restoration. So the money goes towards Charleville Heritage Fund, which if you come and stay, you're not just staying in a gorgeous castle, but you're giving money to help save it. And then we start to tell you about our ghosts.
From its long slumber, and as she does so, the ghosts of past times are beginning to stir.
Many believe Charleville's ghosts span the centuries long before the castle was built. Some of these ghosts may date back to before Christianity came to Ireland, when the Druids, ancient Celtic priests, presided over the land.
The Druids would have been here first. Being in the oak forest, they worshipped in the open areas.
The oak tree was considered sacred to the Druids. Some say the Druid ceremonies performed among Charleville's oaks brought about magical powers. And hundreds of years later, guests claim these powers still remain within the castle's stone walls.
It was the winter solstice, which is the longest night of the year.
That night, one of Charleville's overnight guests says she witnessed the Druids' powers firsthand. The land surrounding Charleville Castle in Tullamore Island was once home to Druids. According to history books, these ancient Celtic priests lived and died hundreds of years ago. But one inexplicable event has guests and hotel owner Bridget Vance wondering if they ever really left Charleville Castle.
It started with her waking at 3 in the morning. And seeing a man walk across the room.
The room went cold.
And then there appeared a group. They weren't clear, they were semi-transparent. And they raised their hands up and down like this, gently, for a while, and then gradually they all just disappeared.
But not without leaving a message behind.
And then what we found out, according to spiritualists and whatnot, this is a blessing, because they wanted the area saved.
Today, Bridget Vance, with the support of her guests, is doing just that. She uses proceeds from the hotel to refurbish and preserve Charleville, one step at a time. Literally. The latest ongoing project is the restoration of one of the castle's grand staircases.
This is an important staircase that Francis Johnston, the architect, did, and he was known for his staircases. The woodwork here, you can kind of see the detail.
But there is much more to this staircase than exquisite craftsmanship.
It's very important because it was a scene of one of the tragedies in the house.
The tragedy in question occurred over 200 years ago. When a young girl and her family lived in Charleville Castle.
She was the daughter of the 3rd Earl and Countess, and her name was Harriet Hugh Adele.
Harriet lived a charmed life inside the castle walls. Her nanny supervised all her daily activities.
Harriet had been sent up to have her hands washed by her nanny. And that's 4 flights up the nursery. And upon coming down, she decided, being a child, to start singing and sliding down the banister.
Harriet lost her balance and fell 4 stories to her death.
She was around 8 at the time. And she's one of our ghosts.
Harriet's ancestors left the castle at the turn of the century, and it lay empty for almost 50 years. Harriet was all but forgotten.
When the castle hadn't been lived in for all those years, and the man that had it before us was single and on his own and no children.
When Bridget Vance and her young children first moved into the castle 15 years ago, they didn't know about Harriet and her tragic story. But strange things started to happen, and they began to wonder if they were alone in the castle.
So when we came in, she started coming back. I think it's the children that bring her back in.
Whenever they would venture near the back stairs, a murky presence would appear. And while it was too late to change Harriet's fate, Bridget Vance believes that her ghost helped deter another such tragedy.
Our first experience was When we first moved here, my son was 3.5 and he went missing, and we were terrified.
The castle's got fearsome drops. You can walk down there. I mean, it is an unfinished castle. And fearful that he might tumble down the drops there, they launched a search.
Hours passed, and with the castle in such disrepair, Bridget feared the worst. But she knows now someone was looking out for her son.
We found him at the bottom of the stairs. And he said, "Don't worry, Mommy, a little girl held my hand." We didn't know the story of Harriet, by the way, then.
Was it Harriet who had led the young boy to safety? Today, the family believes the strange phenomena were deliberate clues, meant to unlock the secret of her tragic past.
We were upstairs in our bedroom, sound asleep, 3 o'clock in the morning. We both wake up, look at each other, say, "Did you hear that?" And what we both heard was, "La, la, 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 la." And looked at each other and said, "Someone's gotten in." So we went out to the staircase, and there was no one.
Then, an ear-piercing scream that echoed through the entire castle.
I imagine what it was Harriet was singing, and then she fell and was screaming, going down.
But despite Charleville Forest Castle's eerie history and the ghostly goings-on there, locals say there is nothing to be afraid of.
People are still afraid of ghosts. But I think really that's the initial, because we don't understand. We're afraid of what we don't understand. But nothing to fear from lost souls.
Over 7,500 kilometers across the Atlantic, another hotel, another tragic death, and another ghost who won't let her story be forgotten. Each year, tourists flock to the city of New Orleans to revel in its history,
Okay,
culture, and of course, nightlife.
I'm gonna stop there. And I also have a question. I have a question to ask you guys too. Somebody also somebody also has to write the documentary to be on the Travel Channel. If you're a writer and you write documentaries for the Travel Channel, if you're a writer and you write documentaries for the Travel Channel, you may want to write this story here, Flagstop. You may want to write the story Flagstop and what I was explaining, and write the story for the documentary, and also with glowing eyes on the track, you may want to write that down too for the documentary also. So yeah, there has to be a writer and a producer, a director, a narrator, somebody who can, direct the documentary, produce the documentary, and somebody who can write the documentary also. Anyway, that's my question. And so did you see of how the story went back in time, went back in time, and the apparitions and the ghost appearing on the screen and stuff like that? Well, as it is, and as it always is, that's what Glowing Eyes on the Track has to do, and that's what Flagstop has to do too. So whenever you guys can get a writer or a producer or a director or a narrator, somebody who can do the story for the documentary and the episodes, all these episodes that I've been reading for the past several weeks, if you guys can get anybody like that, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. All right. So, anyway, that is what Flagstop has to do, and that's what Glowing Eyes on the Track has to do too. Okay. All right. And let the story go back in time, let the apparitions appear on the screen, and let everything be all good, okay? So yeah. And so I hope you guys enjoyed that story. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I need to get to 200 subscribers. So please watch my morning vlog and my ghost train videos that I've done, okay? All right, already. And please watch this one too, okay, that I'm doing right now, okay? So give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell. And I will see you guys later for some more ghost train stories, okay? And haunted stuff and spooky stuff, okay? Okay, bye everybody. Bye.